We are ready to start now. Again, welcome to the Fluent Pro webinar. And today we will talk about migration to Microsoft Project Online. I'd like to mention that this webinar is being recorded and we will share this recording the next day. In the webinar, we are going to talk about our experience with migrations, case studies and lessons learned, how you can improve your migration, and what are the best practices. Today's webinar is organized by myself. My name is Alona Ganchar. I am Services Director at Fluent Pro, and my focus is everything about migrations. Unfortunately, we experienced unforeseen technical issues with our previous webinar, so it didn't happen. And those of you who registered for previous webinar received an email with a discount for our products and services. If you haven't received this email, please contact us and our sales team will get back to you. First of all, I'd like to make a small introduction of Fluent Pro. We are a Microsoft Golden Partner, and at Fluent Pro, we develop different products for configuration, management, for migration, for data visualization, and integration with Microsoft PPM platform. Fluent Pro is probably the most famous for our migration tool. This tool is called Fluent Books, and we also help companies by providing professional services related to data migration. If you take a look at Fluent Pro products, they can be split into two distinct categories. The first category is for the implementation and migration cycle. When you are new to the cloud or new to Microsoft PPM platform, Fluent Pro has several products that could help you to start working with Project Online. And it's Fluent Books, which is the migration tool. It's Fluent Pro PMO, which is a quick start configuration for Project Online. And Fluent Pro Financials that can, this is an application that helps to manage finances. At some point when you are up and running, your environment goes to operational cycle. And here Fluent Pro can also offer several products. Among them is Governance and Administration Suite that can be used for backup of your configuration in Project Online PWA for your project plans and for your project sites. It's backup and restore functionality, and also for creating copies of your production PWA, such as dev environment or sandbox. If you need to do some practice in the PWA without affecting your production data. Also, we provide a data mart solution. This is for data visualization and reporting. Audit Manager that allows you to track different events that happen in your PWA, such as creation, modification, or deletion of entities. And Integration Hub that allows you to integrate different PPM platforms, like, for example, Project Online and Jira, and to move projects and tasks from one system to another in automated mode. Fluent Books, on which we are going to focus today, is the tool for data migration. But also it can be used for configuration management. So after you completed your migration and your Project Online PWA is up and running, you can use Fluent Books for example, bulk edit of your resources, for bulk edit of project level data, for documenting your environment and other different tasks. Fluent Pro is a market leader of tools and services for migrations to Microsoft PPM platform, to Project Online, and also to Project Server on premises. We provide customers with two options. Option one is that you purchase Fluentbook subscription for migration and also migration support. With this option, our team will be performing the migration. Your team will be performing the migration itself, and Fluent Pro will provide the tool, all necessary trainings, and also support to your team during your migration. Option two is migration as a service. When with this option, all work is performed by Fluent Pro migration team, and our team has experience of performing like hundreds of migrations of different sizes, and also like from different versions to Project Online or to Project on premises. Migration of your PPM system to Project Online is an important step, and like with each version that Microsoft produces, there are new features and new functionality that you can use in your organization to perform digital transformation of your PPM and PMO capability. And successful migration to Project Online increases collaboration and leverages the capabilities of Microsoft Office 365 together with Project Online that Microsoft provides you. I have to say that migration of from Project Server on premises of older versions like 2010, 2013, and 2016 to Project Online is a complex activity. It consists of several steps, and it requires careful planning and developing a migration strategy to ensure that the data that you migrate from one system to another retains the integrity, and all the data that you want to migrate is migrated correctly. There are no missing data, and users who start working with the new system, they have all necessary information that they need for their work. There are several critical success factors for a migration to Project Online. And the first one is to set clear expectations with your business customer. Which basically means that it is necessary to spend enough time on assessment of the data that you're going to migrate, on planning and tests before you actually commit to a delivery date for a completed Project Online migration. Because sometimes technically migration can be more complex than it looks from the first sight. Assessing and estimating the data to be migrated is also very important because the duration of migration depends on the quantity of data that you're going to migrate. The next factor is understanding the technical limits of Project Online itself and of the migration tool of Fluentbooks. And by that, I mean that it is necessary to take into account that migration to Project Online is not a database upgrade. This migration is done via API. So migration tool interacts with Project Online not directly, but through API. And that implies that, first of all, Project Online can process certain amount of data with specific speed when data is being uploaded, and also there are entities that unfortunately cannot be migrated with the migration tool. In our help site, we have a section that describes known limitations of migration to Project Online. It has several sections related to PWA configuration, to projects, and to SharePoint sites. We continue improving our migration tool when API is being updated, so we add new features as soon as they get available through API. The next factor is to develop a Project Online migration strategy and a detailed project plan, because the key factors that typically affect migration speed are the amount and quality of the data. Before you create a final project plan, a very good exercise is to do a test migration during which you can see how fast and how well data is being downloaded and uploaded, since every environment is different and there are data specific items that will need to be addressed. And after test migration is done, you will have better understanding of what specific steps you will need to take in order to migrate your data and how long it will take. Another important factor is to prepare the migration environment as well as Project Online PWAs for migration. And by migration environment, I mean the set of machines. It can be one machine or several machines, and it can be a physical PC or a virtual machine that will be used for migration. And on this machine, the migration tool Flynbooks will be installed, and also Project Professional. The version of Project Professional depends on the version of your source system, and for Project Online you will need either Office 365 subscription or Project Professional 2016. For several tasks, you would also need Microsoft Excel installed on the same machine. And among these tasks are, for example, account mapping. If you would like to review comparison reports after the data upload, or if you have Excel reports that would need to have the data source updated, this also requires Microsoft Excel installed on the machine. The migration itself can be split in several stages, and what we advise is first to perform a training migration on a small volume of data. And during this migration, you will get familiar with the data you're going to migrate and also with the tool, because the tool itself, it consists of several wizards which should be used in specific sequence. And during this training migration, you will have a better understanding what exact steps you will need to perform in order, for example, to migrate your PWA configuration, or how to migrate your project from your older PWA to your new Project Online PWA, or how to migrate a project site and how it will get connected to your project in the new PWA. After training, we advise to perform a full test migration. And the reason behind that advice is that there are data-specific issues that can encounter during the migration, and it is always better to catch them and mitigate while you are doing test migration, while users are not affected. And in this way, you will have a better understanding how your production migration will go, and you will have all necessary mitigation plans in order to perform your production migration smoothly. And after you figured out how to overcome the challenges that came up during test migration, you are ready to perform a production migration. After which your system will be ready to go live and users will be ready to work with the new system. There are also post-migration activities that you might want to perform, and among them are, for example, additional customizations to your project online PWA, some trainings for administrators, for users. Part of these trainings can be done after the test migration is completed, because you will have a project online PWA with a complete set of your production data from your old environment. So this PWA can actually be used as a sandbox or as a dev environment in future after you go live. Also, if you need to develop some new reports, this can also be done as a post-migration activity. One of the best practices is to develop a migration strategy. And there are several items here, and one of them is to identify components for the migration. When I talk about the data in project server, in terms of Fluent Books, we would split this data in three categories. First one is PWA configuration. That includes all your custom fields, lookup tables, enterprise project types, your resource pool. Then it would be project plans, including your standard projects, master projects with sub-projects, and project plan templates. And the last part is SharePoint data. This includes your root PWA site, project sites that are connected with projects, and also sub-sites that are not connected to any projects, but there is still information to be migrated. Like, for example, some sub-sites with documents, or some other sites that like can be a wiki site, or uh, there can be like many examples. So after also about identifying the components for migration. Usually there is a set of data that is active now. Like, for example, you have in total 500 of projects in your PWA, but only 100 of them is active, and the rest of the projects are either completed or are cancelled, or like they are no longer active. And there are actually two ways here. One way is to migrate all the data to Project Online PWA, both active and historical data. And another way is to migrate to your Project Online Production PWA only the active set of data. So it will be project PWA configuration, and only a selection of projects, and only a selection of project sites, like, for example, only those sites that are related to active projects. And the rest of the data could go to a separate instance in Project Online. It will be a separate PWA, so-called archive PWA. And there you would migrate again your PWA configuration to preserve the integrity of projects. And you would migrate those 400 of completed or cancelled or archived projects and project sites that are related to those projects. In this way, you will have in your production PWA only the data that is currently necessary, and for example, it will be easier for users to search for the projects that they need or for the project sites. So they will have only the information they currently need for their work to be done. And the historical data will also be always available for them if they need to have a look at some older projects, but they will not have to scroll, for example, through all the older projects. Uh, Also, there might be the case that you can decide that some of the historical data can be completely left in the older system. For example, you don't want to migrate something, and this also would need to be part of your migration strategy. The important step is to identify what is not supported in Project Online or what is not supported for migration by the migration tool, Fluentbooks, and develop a mitigation plan. Like, for example, the brightest example is that SSRS reports are not supported in Project Online. So either you want to switch to Power BI reporting, which is also a powerful tool for you to create modern reports that look like that would show your data and that look really cool. The other step is to get familiar with the migration tool. Our team provides with personalized training if you decide to purchase a Fluentbooks license and do migration uh, on your own, like your team would be doing it. During the training, our team would show you the tool, discuss what steps and what is the sequence of steps will need to be done in order to migrate all your necessary data from your older system to your Project Online PWA. Also, for a larger migration scope, if you have like several hundred projects and like large site collection with project sites, you might decide that data should be migrated in batches. Like, for example, in the first batch, you migrate. Again, it can be different. For example, in one batch, you can migrate projects of one department, and this department could go live first with the Project Online PWA and then other departments. Or, for example, you could migrate your smaller list of active projects first, and then after go live, you could migrate other projects that do not need to be in the Project Online system right away at the go live date. So there can be different ways to define your batches if you need to split your data. Uh, and also we already talked about post-migration tasks that would have to take place after going live. So this is the migration approach, the migration flow that we recommend and that we use when we perform migration as a service. First stage is pre-migration activities. This is setup and prerequisites check. So this is setup of your migration machines. Again, it can be a physical PC or virtual machine where you would install Fluentbooks and other necessary applications. During this step, you would check your access to source and target PWAs. If you use specific migration accounts, like service accounts, you would check that these accounts have all necessary permissions in source and target PWAs, and Fluentbooks require PWA administrator and site collection administrator permissions in both source and target PWAs to perform data download and upload. After all these checks are done, you would proceed to either the smaller step, that is training migration, or you would proceed to the larger step, that is test migration. This stage could also be split into several activities, like sub-activities. First one is publish projects in the source PWA. Only those projects that are going to be migrated, they need to be published. We recommend doing this publish in the source system prior to downloading data, because it helps to first of all, to improve data integrity of the migrated projects. And second is Fluentbooks, when it migrates the project, Fluentbooks downloads the draft copy of your project. Unfortunately, due to API limitations, Fluentbooks cannot download published version of the project. So Fluentbooks downloads the draft version, and during upload to your Project Online PWA, Fluentbooks will programmatically create this project. Then this project, then the schedule will be added to this project, saved and published to your PWA. So the version of the project that you've seen as draft in your source, it will be draft and published copy of the project in your target PWA, in your Project Online. So for example, if you do visual checks after migration, comparing your project center in the source and project center in the target, like for example, you are comparing project level fields. If in the source your draft and published version is different, so project, for example, was not published for a certain time, you will see so-called false positive differences. So if you open a draft copy of the project in the source, you will actually see that it is identical to your project in the target, but it may not be mm, your draft may not be the same as your published copy. To avoid such confusions, we recommend publishing projects in the source PWA prior to downloading them. And Fluentbooks provides a special wizard for that. This wizard allows you to publish your projects in bulk. And this wizard uses Project Professional for the publish. So it would be the same as if your project manager would go open the project in Project Professional and click publish, but Fluentbooks will do it in automated mode and publish your projects one by one, like the list that you provide to Fluentbooks. After projects are published, the next step is actually to download your data from the source PWA. Several groups of data. First one is PWA configuration, then project plans and SharePoint content. This data will be saved into Fluentbooks files. It will be either Fluentbooks workspace for PWA configuration and for SharePoint content, or FPP files for projects. This data will be saved locally on the machine where Fluentbooks is running. Also, if you plan to migrate timesheets, these timesheets will also be downloaded into Fluentbooks workspace. Timesheets migration is not part of general Fluentbooks license, and timesheets migration is provided as a service and is performed by Fluent Pro team. So if you plan to perform migration yourself, and if you also require to perform timesheets migration, please contact our team and we will provide you with options. Usually during test migration, if it's migration as a service, we would migrate up to 8 time reporting periods of timesheets, like not the whole set, but only part of it, to test reporting, to test, to let users do UAT on the timesheets. Because if There are several years of timesheets to be migrated. It's a time-consuming operation, and usually during test migration, it is not that necessary because uh, mm, data and environment issues, they can be caught during migrating of those 8 time reporting periods. After data is downloaded from the source PWA, the next step is to upload this data to the target PWA, also in certain sequence, like first configuration, upload and verification of the uploaded data. Then would go projects, SharePoint content, and the last one would go timesheets. After the upload is completed and verification is done by the engineer who is performing the migration, we also recommend to perform a thorough UAT of the test project online environment and ask users with different roles to do this acceptance testing, like to make sure that if there are any issues with project online PWA or with migrated data, this would be caught before the production migration starts. And because any issues that occur during production migration, um, they can cause the shift of the go live date. Uh, After test migration is done and UAT is passed, the next step is production migration. There are 2 options here. If there is not that much data to be migrated, and if source production environment can be frozen during the period of production migration to project online, then the remigration of modifications step is not necessary. In this case, it will be just production migration, short UAT, and then go live date. But if there is a lot of data to be migrated and uh, environment cannot be frozen for like a long period of time, like users constantly need to work with the data in the source, then there will be an additional step, so called delta migration. Basically, during production migration, you will be repeating these steps, the same steps as you did during test migration, publishing projects, downloading data, uploading this data to your production project online PWA, verifying this data each piece after upload, like after configuration is uploaded, it will need to be verified that there are no issues, that there are no errors, and if there are any, they would need to be addressed. Same with projects and same with project sites. And then UAT and go live is if everything is fine. If source environment was not frozen during production migration, then another step is added, remigration of modifications. Modified resources will be migrated, modified projects, and modified project sites. Also, if timesheets migration is part of the migration effort, um, during this small phase, we would migrate as many timesheets as the freeze window allows, verify this migrated data, and then project online environment will be ready for the users. Um, if there are more timesheets to be migrated than the freeze window allows, those timesheets would be migrated after go live. And usually we split these timesheets into batches, and the number of batches depends on how many timesheets need to be migrated and how many migration accounts we have to perform the upload. And usually we do these uploads during weekends after go live, when no one is working with the system, because during upload of timesheets, Flintbooks alters several key timesheet settings, and among them is pre-population mode and single entry mode. So basically, users will not be able to work with timesheets like normally when upload of timesheets is happening. So this is why timesheets migration is a bit more special than migration of the rest of the data. And it also needs careful planning to make sure that timesheets are migrated, but users are not affected by this migration. So Fluent Books provides several wizards for migration, and each wizard has its own purpose. Some of the wizards you would use while working with your source PWA, and other wizards you would use while working with your destination or target PWA. And for the download of data, there are 3 wizards that are publicly available. It's download PWA configuration, download projects to FPP files, and FPP file is a container in Fluentbooks format that will have your project plan, like MPP file of your project, and also several additional files for project custom and project and task level custom fields metadata. And the last wizard for download is download SharePoint sites wizard that would allow you to download your root PWA site and your project sites. And also, as I mentioned, there is a publish projects wizard that would allow you to publish your projects in bulk. This wizard can also be used not only during migration, but also when you do some like configuration management or some administrative work in your PWA. If at any point of time you require bulk publish of your projects, this wizard is very helpful because it can save you a lot of time and skip manual work and just publish projects one by one. And there are several cases when this can be needed. So there are 3 wizards for uploading information to the target PWA, and it's to upload configuration, to upload projects, and to upload SharePoint sites. 3 other wizards that would be used in the target PWA are for comparing your migrated data. One wizard is to compare your configuration data with PWA, and there is an option here. You can compare your downloaded data in the workspace with your target PWA, or you can compare your source PWA to your target PWA. Usually when we do the migration, if the source PWA is live, if it is not frozen, there is it doesn't really make sense to compare PWA to PWA, because if users did some changes in the source, this will show up as differences in verification report, but these differences occurred not because of something was migrated incorrectly, but source environment was changed. So sometimes it makes more sense to compare your downloaded set of data with your target PWA to make sure that everything that you downloaded is present in the target PWA and is uploaded correctly. 2 other wizards are for creating comparison reports for project plans and for SharePoint sites. All these wizards are publicly available in Fluentbooks when you purchase your Fluentbook subscription for migration. Also, I would like to share 2 case studies from our migrations. And one migration was from Project Server 2010 to Project Online. And the scope of the migration was as following. There was a large resource pool. It was 3,000 plus resources, not that many projects, about 200, even less project sites, about 20 project sites, so they were not used like massively. Timesheets migration was also part of the effort. There were 3 months of timesheets for 1,100 users to be migrated, and we had one migration account, like service account, that could be used for data download and upload. So during this project, we performed test migration and production migration. So source environment was frozen during production migration, so there was no need for Delta migration, but all timesheets could not be migrated during the freeze window, so they had to be migrated after go live. And it seems that there are not that many timesheets in 3 months period, right? But the number of users is significant, 1,100, and with one migration account, the upload doesn't go really fast. That is why our recommendation is to use several migration accounts for data upload. In this case, we would do multi-stream upload, and this helps to speed up the migration, like pretty much. So our approach to this migration was the following. We performed test migration. We migrated PWA configuration, migrated projects and project sites, and migrated timesheets for 1 month to test the reports and to test the functionality. There are several challenges that we met during this migration, and one of them was account mapping. Mm, Basically, during account mapping, we would map source user account to the target one, because in project server on premises you would have an account that looks like domain/username, but in project online it would be an Office 365 account. And especially if your naming convention is changed between older system and newer one, it can be challenging to map your resources correctly, and especially if your resource pool is quite large. Like, we highly recommend to like spend some time but create this mapping accurately and like verify it several times, because on the accuracy of resources migration also depends data integrity of projects. If some of the resources are mapped incorrectly, this can be like these resources will end up as incorrect assignments in projects, and this can affect project schedule, project finances. So this is a really important exercise that requires thorough attention and some time. Also, one of the challenges in this migration was that values in legacy project fields, they caused errors during project uploads, and in particular it was project scheduling engine exception. And we had to use a workaround to avoid these errors. Such kind of errors don't happen pretty often, but they can happen, especially if your project server 2010 environment was not set up from like not was not a fresh setup, but it was migrated like through database upgrade from, for example, project server 2007, sorry. In this case, there can be some legacy information and it is not supported in project online and can cause errors during data upload. And this is exactly kind of issue that should be caught during test migration and mitigated prior going to production. So during production migration, we again migrated PWA configuration, because test migration and production migration is done to two separate PWAs. So production migration is being done to a fresh PWA. This requires migration of PWA configuration projects and project sites. And also during the freeze period, we were able to migrate timesheets for 1 month. Then UAT was performed, and then the system went live. After go live date, we migrated the rest of the timesheets. In terms of duration, test migration took us about 25 business days. Production migration was done in about 8 days. And for timesheets, to migrate the rest of the timesheets after go live, we spent about 50 hours. And this was done with just one migration account, so all uploads were done in one stream. The second case I would also like to present was migration from one project online tenant to another project online tenant. So this was not from older system, but it was project online to project online migration. But the biggest challenge here was that there were two PWAs in the source system, and they were merged into one PWA in the new tenant. It is a challenge because there are conflicts in the PWA configuration. For example, if you have EPTs with the same names in your two source PWAs, and if they have same settings, it is fine. You can use just one EPT for like in your target system. But if these PWAs have different settings, then this issue will need to be addressed. Or for example, if you have resources that are part of both PWAs, like they work on projects. For example, if two PWAs they belong to two different departments. If your resources do some work for both departments, then you will have to decide which data for the resource will be present in the target PWA, because it can easily be the case that your resource has different resource rates in the PWAs and different calendars. So you would need to decide which data for the resource will be the priority and will go to your target PWA. And the same basically with all other PWA configuration entities. If the entity exists in both PWAs, like with the same name, with the same GUID, you would need to identify which of the entities will be used in the target PWA. So besides merging two PWAs into one, the scope was like this. So there were about 100 of resources, about 200 of projects, and about 200 of project sites. Even though the number of project sites itself is not that big, the size of project sites was pretty significant, and some of the sites were several gigabytes in size. And also there were timesheets to be migrated, and there were 4 years of timesheets from both PWAs. We had 5 migration accounts for this migration, so we were able to do multi-stream uploads, and this helped to migrate the data faster. During test migration, we had 3 waves of migration. During the first wave, we uploaded downloaded and uploaded PWA configurations, identified and addressed conflicts. It was a discussion with the customer about each case of the conflict, what data would be the priority, what data should be used in the target PWA. During the second wave, we migrated projects and project sites to the new tenant, and also we migrated the whole volume of timesheets because this is what the customer wanted. During production migration, we migrated PWA configuration first, considering the lessons learned about conflicts that we met during test migration. During the second wave, we uploaded projects, And during the third wave, we uploaded project sites and timesheets in parallel. Timesheets depend on the projects. So before the timesheets can be uploaded, all the projects should be already in the system. In the target PWA, they need to be verified and made sure that all of them are correct. Only after that, timesheets can be uploaded. But there is no dependency on project sites. So if you have several migration accounts, project sites and timesheets can be uploaded in parallel. So the test migration took about 20 days. The download, upload, and verification of all the data. And production migration was done in 10 days, and both source PWAs were put into the read-only mode, so users were not working with them while we were doing production. Also, the freeze window allowed us to migrate all the timesheets because we had 5 migration accounts, so we could do things in parallel. Production migration took about 10 days, and after that, new PWA went live, and all users just switched to the new environment. So among lessons learned, I'd like to mention that test migration is critical, and sometimes it may seem that it could be a good idea to skip test migration or reduce test migration to save time. But since there are potentially some data and environment issues that could occur during the migration, it is better to catch them and to resolve them during the test migration when users can still work with their source environment and like before doing the production migration. And also thorough UAT should be done after test migration, so that if there are any issues that users might find, they would find them after test migration, but not after prod migration, like prior a day to go live. If there is necessity to perform a cleanup of the environment, of the source environment, it is better to do this before the migration started. In this case, you will have less data to be downloaded and uploaded. If this cleanup was not performed before the migration, then it should be done after the migration in the new environment. But we strongly recommend not to do this cleanup when the migration is already going, because in this case, it could be possible that your downloaded set of data is now different from what is in the source. So you either need to re-download the data or clean up the downloaded set of data, which can cause additional efforts and actually violate the integrity of the data that you are migrating. Also, one of the lessons learned is that additional steps will be required to migrate projects if there are resources with identical display names. FluentBooks is able to migrate resources as part of PWA configuration. If they have identical display names, FluentBooks will resolve them by their GUIDs or by user accounts. But in Project Professional, when you look at the resources, you will only see display names, and FluentBooks, since the operation of resources assignment is done with the help of Project Professional. Project Professional would just assign the first resource in the list, and it can be the wrong one. So if there are resources with identical display names, they would need to be renamed prior to the project's upload, and then they will need to be renamed back. This can be done in bulk with FluentBooks wizard called bulk resources edit, and the projects will need to be republished after resources names are changed back. If there are workflows, project workflows, or SharePoint workflows in your system, you might want to consider uploading those workflows after the main data is uploaded, if workflows trigger email notifications. Or The other way is to turn off these email notifications for the duration of migration, because during the data upload, if there are notifications produced, users will receive hundreds of emails like spamming their inbox. Also, download and upload of native and out-of-the-box fields and lookups should be done only in absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you would just want to migrate the custom fields and lookups. So Flint Pro offers the following migration packages at reduced price. Uh, 100 projects and sites, 200 projects and sites, 4 and 500 projects and sites. This is a flat price migration, so the price is fixed, and if you would like to purchase this package, please contact our sales team. They will send you the offer. These services will be performed by a Flint Pro migration team which is experienced and have performed more than 100 migrations as a service. Also, customers can purchase Flint Pro Flint Books for migration, and Flint Books for migration will also include premium support package. So before your migration starts, you will receive a personalized training from our team, and you will also have support during the migration. We have a support team that is here to help, and this premium support package is mandatory because usually this you usually require the support during your migration, since it is a complex procedure. With this package, you would also get 1 year subscription for J Suite, which is configuration management, disaster recovery, and that allows you to do backup and restore for up to 100 projects. Do-it-yourself migrations do not include timesheets migration. Timesheets migration are offered as a migration as a service. So if your migration project requires timesheets to be included, please contact our team. We will provide you with options. Also, if you would like to do a free migration evaluation, please contact Flint Pro team. And this evaluation includes free configuration and data analysis, free sizing and timing estimation, and migration project plan. Also, I would like to mention that all managed migrations, like migrations as a service, they include a 1 year subscription for Flint Books for your target PWAs and J Suite included. And this package includes your 2 PWAs and backup for up to 250 projects. So please feel free to reach out to us using the contacts that you see on the screen, and we can schedule next steps. If you have any questions regarding your migration, please also contact us. We are here to help. Thank you for your time today. Recording of the webinar will become available tomorrow, and we will send you the link. Have a great day. Again, thank you for your time. Bye.